What's the best story you've heard? What do you think is the best story or feature or anything of tonight's game with any of the players, coaching staffs, schools, what have you, Ernie, that you've heard?
Well, I mean, I think we're going to have a feature tonight on the Raleigh Massimino influence on Villanova and his influence on Jay Wright. And you go back to '85 and that incredible shooting night that Nova had when they won the championship then. And so I don't know if there's any particular story, but I think they're all good. And I think when I think about stories in the whole tournament, from UMBC and Loyola Chicago and the great run they had. I mean, that's what it's like every year when you do this, and you're talking about players that you really didn't know much about before the tournament started, and that's what makes it great. And so we hope to put a finishing touch on this one as we did 2 years ago when we had it for the first time. The game that came down to the ball in the air as the horn goes off, and then the celebration begins. So let's hope we have something rivaling what we had 2 years ago.
And in terms of that Raleigh Massimino, Jay Wright, that's interesting. I look forward to that feature tonight as part of your pregame coverage, 7 Eastern time on TBS.
Yes.
Is that, Jay Wright doesn't get mentioned often with Coach K and with Roy Williams. We had Coach K versus Jim Boeheim in the mix in this tournament. The so-called blue bloods of NCAA tournament basketball. Do you think that tonight, Jay Wright, regardless, win or lose, enters that pantheon right now?
Yeah, sure, certainly. And I think one of the things about Jay, and this is just what happens, if you go through a bunch of times where maybe it's perceived as underachieving or not being able to break through a ceiling, and only good enough to get this far, which kind of dogged him for a little while. And it was, he does that. He hasn't had the great success, but he's this great looking George Clooney kind of guy, and he has the great suits. And then you kind of get lost in all that kind of a facade. And I think he's shown that, he belongs in that elite company of great coaches in the country.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.